Hello and welcome to the finale of 1984 Lights Out. I am here with the two finalists, Zach and Austin. The two of them will be fighting tonight for the votes of the 7 jurors. So, as he won final head of household, Zach got the choice of whether to go first or second in the opening statement. Zach chose to go first, which means he will go second in the closing statements. How this will work tonight is you will each get 7 minutes for your opening statements. After you're both done, we will bring in the jurors in the order that they were evicted. Corey is not going to be here tonight, but I do have a question to read from them. And it's possible that Devin will not be here, but I do have questions from him if he's not able to show up. Other than that, we will bring in each juror in the order that they were evicted. After they all get their turn, we will allow you each to give a 2-minute closing statement. Austin will go first, followed by Zach. And then I will bring all the jurors back where they can give one brief statement without revealing who they're voting for. And we will do the vote count and then the vote reveal. And then we will get on a new Zoom to do the reunion. So with that, are you both ready? Okay, Zach, I'm going to start your time as soon as you start talking.
Okay, hi Jerry. I'll start by saying that I came into this game as a first-time org player, and right from the start, all of my plans went right out the window. I wanted to lay low and just make some connections and just see how far I could make it without going nominated at first. However, I was put up on the block week 1 and really had no strong connections to count on, so I really could only save myself. I sat on call with production for 3 hours and played blackjack in order to save myself with the power of veto week 1. I came out of week 1 with a nomination, a comp win, and an alliance with Garrett and Devin, known as the Figure It Out Boys. And yes, I know the name was horrible, but I did not come up with it. Garrett did. So we were a strong group and no one really suspected us. And we exchanged a lot of information during the pre-jury, and it really helped my position in the game a lot. And I wanted to stay loyal to that for as long as I could. However, I also have really strong side connections with people like Kennedy, Amanda, Jerry, Josh, Billy, and Austin. So I really felt covered on all sides, really, no matter what happened. The first time I really felt like I had to be sneaky or make a move on my own was during Josh's HOH on week 4 when Payton was the backdoor target, which was amazing for my game. Devin and Garrett were pushing me really hard within the last hour before the eviction for Payton to stay and Dylan to go home, which was very concerning to me because they had been telling me earlier in the game, or earlier in the day rather, they wanted Dylan to stay and Payton to go home. So this flip was very confusing to me and concerning. And I knew that Devin was very close to Payton. And by this point, I was already catching on to Dylan. Devin playing both sides. And I knew that if he wanted Payton to stay, Payton pretty much had to go. And I knew that Payton was a threat to me long term. So that's what I need to have happen. But I was in a tricky spot because Devin, Garrett, and I, we knew that we were pretty much the swing votes. We knew however we voted, that was what was going to happen. So I didn't know how I could really balance voting out Payton while telling them that I wasn't. And then Payton goes home and they're all of a sudden, concerned about me and they want to turn on me and get me out. So what I had to do is I had to go to Kennedy and campaign to her to get rid of Payton, which was not an easy thing to do because she had tried to backdoor Dylan just the week prior. And Dylan was running around the last half hour before the eviction, throwing her under the bus for no reason. But even still, I was able to convince her that we needed to get out Payton because he was the bigger threat long term and that it made more sense. And regardless of how she felt with Dylan and the fact that she tried to backdoor him the week prior, we were able to vote together and vote out Payton. And I went right back to my alliance and I told them, hey, the votes weren't there regardless. Kennedy wanted Payton out. So, nothing we could do. Like, Payton's gone. Like, let's just move forward from here. And it never came up to me. And I was never really caught up in my lie because of how well I separated the two groups and my alliances from one another. The following week was when Corey nominated me, and I saw it coming. He was one of the few people that I did not really have much of a connection with, and I expected them to put me up when they won HOH, and that was fine. But it was pretty much the worst case scenario for me because I felt like they were really the only person who was going to put me up at that point in the game. I was able to save myself at the BOV for the second time, and that was my second competition win of the season. And unfortunately, I lost Jerry that week, who was a very close ally of mine, but I was able to move forward and adapt. The next week, Garrett won HOH, and I think this is really when I made my second biggest move of the game. Garrett had won HOH and he wanted Ali out. That was his target. That's what he said since the start of his HOH. However, he won the POV, and while he was so happy to win the POV, and he got on call with me and Devin in our alliance chat and was going on about how he was so glad to keep nominations the same and didn't have to renom anyone else, I brought up the idea of using the veto on Ali because it made sense for me in my game. This thought had never really crossed his mind as far as I was aware. And, by the end of the time, I mean, he vetoed Ali on his own HOH and put up Dylan because I had convinced him that getting out Dylan was a bigger, stronger, and flashier move that really benefited us both. And while I do think it benefited us both, it was 100% a move on my part that really helped me way more. I felt like Ali was someone I could work with, and I got along with her well. And Dylan, I really did not trust him. And so having Garrett do my dirty work and get Dylan out on his own HOH with the veto that he won, it made sense for me. And that was really a move on my end. And even Garrett at the time and Devin on the call, they said that, they're like, Zach, why did you even bring this up? Like, this is your idea. You've made things so complicated here. But moving on from there, I mean, Dylan was gone and that was great for my game and I didn't have to get my hands dirty with it. Austin won HOH the next week and I was able to stay safe, even though Austin and I really did not work that well together. We were not that close. We had a pretty good personal relationship, and I was glad that I worked on that relationship earlier in the game because it paid off. I mean, people were going around to Austin and pitching for him to put me up as a phenom. They were pitching for it hard from what I hear. And yet Austin still kept me safe because of that relationship we had in my social game that, we had built upon there. So I was able to keep myself safe on an HOH that wasn't even really an ally of mine when I probably should have gone up. Final 9 in the double eviction was really where my game picked up. And I think that's the real focal point of my game. Final 9, I was on the block with Amanda. It was really the first time that I was not able to save myself with the POV, but I had such strong connections to my allies that they were able to turn on their other allies in order to save me. I mean, Josh turned on Amanda hard to save me, and Devin turned on Austin and Ali hard to save me as well. And I ended up just staying in the boat while, many people there were blindsided. And that's just a testament to my social game and my connections. Going into the double right after, I knew what I had to do. Kennedy told me that she would not put up Corey, which is what I had proposed we do. But she said that she would put Corey up as a phenom if the veto was used. So I knew I had to go out there and I had to win that veto, and I won that veto, and it was a crucial moment for me. I vetoed Austin, even though Austin had evicted me just a few minutes earlier. But I mean, I wanted to be flexible, and I was always willing to work with anyone in this game if I saw the benefit in it. And I knew Austin had just been betrayed hard by people like Devin. And I knew that Devin was playing both sides and that it had finally come, out into the light, and that people like Austin were seeing what was going on. I knew Austin had a lot of information to give me, and I knew that he was going to be indebted to me if I saved him because he was going home 100% had I not vetoed him there. So I vetoed him and forced Kennedy's hand and got her to put up Corey, but I knew that that was not something that she wanted to do. And it was so much, it was such more of a benefit for me in my game because I knew that I had to get Corey out first and foremost before I could turn on someone like Devin, who I knew I had to take a shot at soon enough, but I had to make sure that Corey was out first and foremost. There was no way I could take a shot at someone like Devin without Corey gone. So after the double, I had some people who were upset with me because I made a personal move. My allies were confused on my loyalties and where I truly stood, and I knew that was going to happen, but I took the risk and I made the risky move and I vetoed Austin because it made sense for me in my game, and I was never going to shy away from doing something like that. Immediately after the double, I went around to Austin and Kennedy and Josh and Garrett, and one by one, I told them pretty much everything I knew about Devin's game and how we'd been playing all of us. And I made sure that he was public enemy number 1 because he was my target, and my target became the house target as a result of that. I told everyone, what I knew. I told Kennedy about my alliance with Garrett and Devin, which no one else had known about until that point. And I made sure that, what I needed to have happen happened. And Ali put up Devin on her own HOH because of me and Kennedy's campaigning to her constantly on her HOH. And she
okay, Zach, your time is up. Okay, Austin, your time will begin when you start talking. There we go.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here at the final 2, and I can't wait to speak to all of you and answer any questions or inquiries that you might have about the game I've played this season. Definitely didn't expect it to make it to the finale for the longest time, and it's such an honor to have made it here. I'm going to start by saying that this season was a slow start for me. I feel like 2 different sides were coming together, and I felt comfortable with people on both sides, and I didn't quite know where I was going to fall into the mix. One of the first relationships I really developed this season was with Nick. I felt like he was my closest ally, and going into week 2, I learned that we were beginning to be associated together and that we would potentially go up together on Kennedy's HOH. I convinced Kennedy that I would be better for her game and managed to avoid the block during that week. And in the event that I went up in Nick's place, I would have gotten 15th place, no questions asked. Even though I avoided going up, I still lost my closest ally in Nick, and me being transparent about him wanting to stay started to put me in a predicament, and I felt like all eyes were on me for wanting to go against the majority. People were starting to associate me with one side of the house, and then I noticed that my relationships with people on the opposite side of the game were starting to quiet down in their conversations. I felt a disconnect from people like Garrett, Kennedy, Jerry, Billy, and Callum, and I knew I would probably be easy nomination choices for any of these people. So around this time, I linked up with Dylan and Corey in a 3-person alliance that I felt really comfortable with, and they are largely where my loyalties were. By round 3 in the game, the sides started to become very clear, and knowing my relationships were stronger with one side over the other, I started to encourage a group to be made. A 6-person alliance with myself, Corey, Dylan, Peyton, Allie, and Devin came together, and up until pre-jury, there seemed to be a power struggle, and we ended up losing a couple of our numbers. While I knew my relationships with some people from the other side of the house weren't progressing, I was still able to develop side deals with both Zach and Josh, who ironically are both here at the final 3. I felt comfortable with both of them throughout the game, and even though I was already locked in with a different alliance myself, I still had a group of 6 here, a group of 3 with Dylan and Corey, and then my side alliances with both Josh and Zach. I felt like I was able to do this fairly undetected, and I positioned myself near perfectly in this game after almost potentially being the second boot. My positioning was so well executed that I managed to be the very last person in this game to ever be nominated. Now, Lord knows I gave every single challenge this season my absolute best, and I came up short several times. I hardly got picked in any POVs for the first half, and I was consistent in making it far in the HOHs. I wanted to make a big move and put myself on the map. I started by targeting Kennedy and Garrett, who I believe both were huge threats in the game, and ultimately Callum went on my HOH. Some people called Callum going on my HOH a waste, but I didn't see it that way. By putting up Callum instead of Zach, I was able to strengthen my relationship with Zach while taking out someone I had zero relationship with. With Callum going, I also finished my HOH reign with minimal blood on my hands. Now, the double eviction is where the game really changed for me. I felt like I was boxing up my relationships in the game and wasn't letting myself be flexible with people I wouldn't normally talk to. I felt locked in with one side of the game and couldn't really venture out from it. But then the situation happened where I believed Zach would be going home over Amanda. I evicted him, and then Zach stayed. People from my own alliance were flipping to the other side, and I was starting to take the fall for it. I started to realize my position in the game, and I was recognizing that I was expendable to several people. When I found out that Devin had been telling people he was wanting me out and that he was being picked for house guest choice on both sides, I took a step back and I knew I needed to change my game. I went full defense mode, and after Corey had just gone home, I felt like me and Allie were screwed. I knew I had to protect me and Allie at all costs, and I began a campaign of throwing Devin under the bus. I communicated with people who I normally didn't talk with on a game level, like Kennedy and Garrett, and I started to expose the game that Devin was really playing. This was a huge move for me because it started to alienate Devin from people I knew he was secretly close with. So I knew Devin would only have me and Allie to rely on. And I also knew the other side of the house would have their eyes on Devin. I was able to plant the seeds of doubt about Devin, and the whole game exploded. Ultimately, I still campaigned for Devin to stay, knowing that if he stayed, I wouldn't be a target of his and that he would be the house target. Devin ended up going home, and the game seemed like a lost cause for Allie and myself. We were both incredibly vulnerable. When I was put up with Allie, I started to rely on the relationships I had been building up with Zach and Josh, and I was able to capitalize on Kennedy and Garrett not feeling good about Allie in the game. So here I am at the top 5, completely alone. My whole side of the game is demolished. Me going home for 5th was going to be predictable, right? But I said, no, not if I have anything to do with it. I lasted an hour in a wall sit, knowing that my life was on the line and I was likely to go home next. I put all my cards on the table. I began throwing everybody under the bus to everybody. At this point, I was all alone. I was an underdog and I had something to prove. I love Garrett a lot, but I knew he was such a threat to my game. And now that I was going on the block against him after he had survived eviction votes several times, I thought I wasn't going to make it, but I started to find cracks, and I knew that people like Kennedy and Josh wouldn't feel comfortable competing against Garrett in the last competitions of the seasons because of how good he is at them. I played up how important it was for Garrett to go home, and with the help of Josh, I managed to stay. Now that I had my foot in the door, I knew I couldn't stop. People in this game did see me as an underdog, and everybody had such massive resumes in terms of comp wins that I seemed to be a very easy beat at the end. I started planting these seeds that I didn't stand the chance at Final 2, and I was starting to hammer it down with everyone so they would be motivated to bring me to the end. At Final Four, I knew Zach wanted Josh to go home over Kennedy, but Kennedy I knew would have been a bigger threat to me making Final Two. If Zach pulled Kennedy down and the vote was between myself and Josh, I didn't stand a chance. But if I made the move to take out Kennedy now, I arguably have both Zach and Josh wanting to take me to the finals. I consistently positioned myself in this game several steps in advance, and while I did not win as many competitions as Zach, with my social tenacity, I was able to end up being the very last person from my side in the game remaining. I was able to hijack and outlast the majority of the alliance that had been running the whole game. I planted seeds against myself so that people would believe me staying in the game would be beneficial, even though it probably wasn't. I believe the one thing I really went back on this game was the deal with Kennedy I had made at Final Five and then taking her out at 4. It was the absolute biggest move that could have been made, and I had to put on a really fake face to avoid Zach pulling her down. I really do feel like I was the ultimate underdog this season, and while I didn't get the opportunity to compete in many of the POVs this season and only secured 2 comp wins, I can now honestly say that winning challenges isn't everything. I would be so honored to represent 1984 Lights Out as the winner, and I'm looking forward to answering any questions that any questions that anybody has for me. I will give full transparency. Thank you so much.
Okay, here is Amanda. Amanda will have 7 minutes. You do not have to use the whole 7 minutes if you don't want to, but you'll get 7 minutes to start when you start talking. Amanda.
Okay, sorry. Hi. Congrats. Oh my God, I just ran. Congrats on making it to final HOH or final 2. So my question is, Zach, I'm sorry if you were asked this, I'm out to eat right now, but do you have any regrets in the game? And if you do, would you have changed those?
Yeah, I definitely have regrets in the game. One of the first regrets that I really had was I told Devin about a chat that I had with Kennedy and Josh when I trusted Devin, when I knew but deep down that I probably shouldn't have, but I was worried that the chat was going to get leaked and that he was going to find out about it anyway. And he ended up using that information against me the very next round while Allie was HOH, and that is apparently why I got nominated when Allie was HOH. So that was a regret that I definitely had. And another one that I could even point to is when I was HOH at Final 6, I strongly considered going after Josh there. And while I wouldn't say I necessarily regret, not taking him out there, it was definitely something that I felt like at the time I could have done, and it definitely would have changed the rest of the game. But at the end of the day, I made it here. So I don't really know how much I regret it, but those 2 are really the only things I can think of.
Okay.
Oh, Amanda, you froze. I'm gonna pause it. Yeah, you froze. Can you talk again?
Am I good now?
Yes, I will resume your time.
Okay, sorry. Austin. I don't have any questions, but I would like to thank you for being one of the people who are honest and real with me throughout the game, even though we didn't talk much. And I actually take a lot of that into consideration too. I will be watching how you answer questions very closely. And that's really it. Good luck to both of you. You're both great people, and good luck. Bye.
Thank you, Amanda. For me? Okay. As I said earlier, Corey is not here, but I do have questions from them. How this will work is I'm going to give you each 3.5 minutes to answer the question that they gave. And the time will start once I am done asking the question. I'm going to go Zach first, followed by Austin. Let me find Corey's chat one more time. Okay. So, Zach, what's a move you consider to be solely your move that you did not accomplish with someone else? Your 3.5 minutes starts now.
I mean, what I did was, at the double when I used the veto on Austin, that was solely my choice. I knew that it was not at all something that Kennedy wanted to happen, nor was she happy when I did that. It was totally my own. I won that power by myself. I won the veto. I used it by myself. That was the entire, situation of it. Yes, Kennedy was the HOH, so she had that part in it as well. But me using the veto was my own thing, and I knew exactly what was going to happen with the renomination, and I knew regardless I didn't want Austin going home. So I made that move solely for myself and by myself. I knew that none of my allies really wanted it. It wasn't something Kennedy wanted. It wasn't what Josh wanted. It wasn't what Garrett wanted, and it wasn't what Devin wanted. It wasn't what anyone wanted but myself, and I did that by myself, for myself, on my own, and I won that veto fair and square by myself.
Okay. Austin, the same question to you. What's a move that you'd consider to be solely your move that you did not accomplish with someone else? Your 3.5 minutes starts now.
I feel like I have a couple things I did by myself and a couple things I did with other people, so I'll just try and stick with what I did by myself. I think my decision to take out Kennedy, although it was late in the game, was solely my decision. I feel like throughout the game, I was probably one of the few people who was willing to ever go after Kennedy. I feel like Kennedy was someone who was really locked down with a lot of people, and a lot of people may have been too scared to, protect her. And at Final Four, I, took everything about the game into consideration, and I realized, Kennedy is the biggest threat to win this game. And people could make the argument that Josh was a bigger threat to win, but I knew in my heart, at the very bottom of my heart, that Kennedy was going to take the whole game. And I know Zach kind of wanted Josh out, and I feel like the reasoning for that was Josh and Zach probably would have taken each other out at 3, but that same logic applied to me and Kennedy. So rather than going with what Zach would have preferred in that scenario, I went with what was going to benefit my game as an individual. So I took out Kennedy, and I feel like that was solely my choice.
Okay. Similarly, Devin is not here, but he is next, and he has questions for each of you. We'll just continue with the order. Okay, Zach, I felt like you played a game that at this point, all you have to do is own. The comp resume is there, but a lot of people want you to share credit for the moves you made with others. For me, my respect comes when someone puts actions in place of their words. What do you feel like was your cleanest move of the game? By that, I mean a move that others may want to take credit for, but you were behind the scenes and pulling the strings. Your 3.5 minutes starts now.
For me, this one's easy. This is when I got Garrett to use the veto on his own HOH and put up Dylan and get out Dylan. No one knew that was my move other than Devin and Garrett. And while I hate to discredit Garrett, it was my idea. I pitched it. I brought it up. Garrett was never going to do that had I not said that. It was Garrett's HOH. It was his veto, but it was my move. Getting out Dylan there was, while I do think that move benefited Garrett as well, it was something that benefited me more than anyone else. And regardless, it was something that I pitched, I came up with, and it was just something that needed to happen for my own game. Dylan going really broke apart the other side that was being said to be together of, Devin, Austin, Corey, Allie, and Dylan. And I knew Dylan was kind of the center of it. So him going was so much more beneficial for my game than Allie going, which is what Garrett originally wanted. So at the end of the day, that was my idea. It was my move. It just had Garrett's face on it.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. Austin, I'll be honest, I'm stunned you're in this position. You lost Nick, Dylan, and Peyton all before jury, and then proceeded to watch people in your alliance waste their powers. In the midst of that, I think your only flaw had to do with backdooring Callum in the final pre-jury round. My question for you is about your underdog story compared to the person sitting next to you. Do you think an underdog story is enough to earn votes? If not, then what's the one move you made to stand out and create a winning resume? Your 3.5 minutes starts now.
I think being an underdog definitely shouldn't be counted out. I mentioned in my speech that Zach had the comp wins over me, and I was really beating myself up for the longest time. I'm sure a lot of people on the jury and pre-jury could tell that I had a very visible frustration that I wasn't winning challenges. But I made it very clear that I was wanting to win challenges and I was wanting to go out and make big moves, and people still weren't coming for me even knowing that. And then I made the decision to go after Kennedy and Garrett, and Kennedy at this point I don't think had ever been targeted. And then shoot, that was like a lot. Are you able to repeat the question? Or no?
Yeah, I'll repeat it. My question for you is about your underdog story compared to the person sitting next to you. Do you think an underdog story is enough to earn votes? If not, then what is one move that you made to stand out and create a winning resume?
Okay, yeah, and then exactly, like my decision to go for Callum, that wasn't beneficial for people in my alliance on individual levels, but it was important for mine. So I obviously was kind of pushed into the direction of putting up Zach at that point in the game, but I knew I had a working relationship with Zach. I also had a working relationship with Josh. Had Josh not won POV and somebody else did, I'm sure I would have been pressured to nominate Josh, but I still went against that decision because the more I would kind of sit on what would ultimately happen on my HOH, I knew that Callum was somebody who didn't contribute anything to my game positively, whereas people like Zach and Josh did. And as you can see, the final three ended up being myself, Zach, and Josh. Zach and Josh were the people who I had individual relationships with that I considered to be strong from the other side of the game. I kind of had very similar relationships with both of them. Like, we're on opposite sides, but we still got each other's back. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the people here in the final three are myself, Zach, and Josh. I think it's a testament to how I was kind of able to work myself into a final two position, which, I mean, you were surprised about it. I was surprised about it. I think lots of people are surprised that I made it here. But I really worked with like the hand of cards that I had, and I really started to kind of weasel my way through those cracks. And somehow I ended up here. And yeah, I'm absolutely surprised about it too. And I think that in itself explains why someone who has more of an underdog story shouldn't be counted out against someone that has more comp wins. You know, I feel like I had very excellent positioning. And to answer the other question, yes, like the one thing I did on my own, like deciding to go against what everybody was in my ear telling me to do to put up Zach, I didn't do that. I put up Callum, knowing that Callum was someone who was never going to be a positive influence for my game. And that was all me, so.
Okay. Next up, we have Allie. She is joining the room. Hello, Allie. Your 7 minutes will start.
Hi.
Talking.
Okay. I have a few questions. First, obviously, I'm going to congratulate both of you because you both played a phenomenal game, and I'm just proud of both of you. My questions are for all of you, actually, so anyone can start. My first one is going to be, what was your like big turning point in the game? Anyone can start.
I'll start. So the big turning point for my game and for me is definitely the whole live night, the double eviction. That morning, I had actually just solidified a final two alliance with Corey. You know, Corey was someone who I inherently felt comfortable with throughout the game. And I had finally just been like, okay, you know what, rather than letting everybody else kind of pair up or get into trios, like, I need to solidify something. And, you know, the minute I solidified something, Corey got evicted. Same thing happened with Nick. Same thing happened with Dylan. You know, all my allies were like going out in that manner. So it just kind of shows that like I was kind of able to overcome losing those allies. And I think that is huge. But, and then the whole live night just with who ended up going home was just a huge disappointment because I lost Corey and then found out that Devin had been, you know, lying the whole time. And then, you know, that's when I put in the work to be, you know, spread that Devin was doing so much in the game. And that was the turning point. I feel like I separate that whole pre-jury portion as part one and then everything from live night forward as part two. And I feel like I really took control of my game at that point.
Okay. All right, and Zach?
I'd also say that the double eviction was the turning point. I think that was probably a big turning point in the season as a whole for everyone. But specifically for me, it was, you know, because I won the veto that round, and that was really my opportunity to take out Corey. Obviously, Corey had already put me up twice by that point, and I had not had an HOH in order to get back at them and, you know, try to get Corey out. So that veto moment was really my opportunity. That was my chance. And I knew that before I could do anything else, before I could go after anyone else in the game, I needed Corey gone. That was the only way I could really do anything. So I had to make sure that at that moment Corey went home. And that really opened up the door for me entirely. I mean, I called with Austin right after the double. Austin told me what he knew about Devin, and I told him. And then I immediately went to Kennedy and I told her everything Austin had told me. And then I immediately went to Josh and I told Josh everything that Austin and Kennedy had told me. And then the next day I called with Garrett and told Garrett everything they had all told me. And it just went all around and all around to the big circle. And finally, I was able to go after Devin in the way that I had been wanting to for a while because I knew the game that he was playing, but I knew I couldn't do anything about it until Corey was gone. And that double was the moment to get him out. It was the moment where I did get them out. And that was just the big turning point for everything right there.
Okay. My next question is going to be, actually, it's funny because I was going to ask the, like, which one is your biggest move that wasn't your own, but since it was already asked, I changed it. This next one is going to be, what pre-jur do you guys think deserves jury?
I can go. Deserves jury. Well, when I think of Rob pre-jurors, I really think of Peyton first. I think Peyton was a huge threat, huge player. He didn't make it that close to jury, so like I don't know if I could say he deserves jury. I think that if he didn't go home that week, he 100% would have made jury. Just a huge player, all around social, competitive threat. When I think again of other people, I think of Jerry. Jerry had a lot of social connections. Again, comp threat. He was closer to getting jury. I mean, even Dylan. Dylan did so much pre-jury, and he was so close to jury. I think all three of them. Honestly, I don't know if I can really pick one.
All right, and Austin.
I would say Dylan wholeheartedly. I think Dylan was such a ginormous presence in this game, and the fact that Dylan took the first HOH of the season with like the kind of like, I don't know, Dylan's a very controversial player and people know that, and the fact that he won a first impressions HOH and then was thrown into an alliance early on and then immediately put the people up in that chat up on the block. It was just such a crazy start of the season. And again, Dylan was just somebody who always was coming up, whether it was an argument here or a decision here or a list of alliances here. You know, there was so many different facets of his game. And he did play such a huge part in the game that was felt, you know, throughout the stages, even after he had already gone home. So I would definitely say Dylan definitely, I think, would have deserved to be in the jury. I think another person who stands out to me is Jerry, even though I wasn't close with Jerry. I think Jerry was playing a very amazing game, and I think Jerry was a big threat, and that's why he went home. I didn't have a relationship with him, but I feel like we were kind of doing similar things, just on opposite sides. So I think it would either be Dylan or Jerry for me.
Okay, and my final question is the usual one I like to ask when I'm a juror. Define your game in one word.
I would say stealthy.
I would say positioning.
Okay, well, that's all I have, but so far my vote's still up in the air, but you both did amazing and I love you guys and hopefully we can be friends outside of the game. Love you guys.
Get Garrett on here. Hopefully. I have to give him the zoom in, so give me 1 second. about the wait. Shout out to any people watching. Let me look and see how many viewers we have. We have 11 viewers right now. Okay, there.
Hi, sorry it took me so long. I'm on my phone, so like I don't know how to use Zoom on a phone.
Okay, Garrett, your 7 minutes starts when you start talking.
Okay. Well, first of all, to both of you, I want to say congratulations to making it to the final two. Very big accomplishment. So, my question for both of you guys is that I want to know personally, can you self-assess yourself in this game? So I want you guys to tell me like what you feel like your strengths in this game have been, but also on the flip side of that, I want to know what your weaknesses are, because I feel like if you've made it this far, you know yourself better than anybody else. So what do you feel like you've done well in the game, but also what have you not done well?
Can I go first? Okay, so for me, I think people would probably expect me to say that I think competitions were my biggest weakness. I think I'll take it a step further than that. I think my transparency was a little bit of a weak point for me. I think I was a little bit too open with certain people who I might not have been aligned with throughout the game with what my true intentions were. And I feel like that made people not want to get close with me. That's probably why I didn't have an actual solid final two deal until like final 9 or 8, and then Corey went home that same night anyways. So my transparency, it kind of, made it so people didn't want to get close to me. And I started to kind of take the hints and cues that maybe something I said about being, how I truly felt in the game would rub them the wrong way. So then I took a step back and I was like, okay, I need to correct this. I need to be I need to hold my cards a little bit closer to my chest. As for strengths, I've kind of beaten a hammer over this at this point, so I'm sorry about that, but definitely my ability to position myself in the game. I definitely had a really good grip of where I needed to put myself and which voting blocks or associations would get me deeper into the game. And I would argue that I was correct in almost every single decision I made in terms of where I placed myself. I surprisingly made it to final two after it seemed like there was a good 2 or 3 weeks there where it seemed like my days were numbered. So positioning would be my strength, and my weaknesses would definitely be my transparency.
Hi, I would say that my strengths were my ability to do things kind of under the radar and not really get caught for them, kind of lie to one person and then tell, the truth to another person, and they wouldn't really compare notes. I don't really feel like at any point in this game I was ever caught up in a lie that I told, and I did tell quite a few, but I did not get caught up in them so much, and I didn't really have people comparing notes on me very often. So I think that was my strength. But as far as a weakness goes, I definitely think that my weakness is my inability to sometimes connect very well with people who are not really my solid allies. Like if you're my solid ally, I had no problem connecting with you, and like I was with you and you knew that. But people like Allie, like we just didn't talk game that much. Or someone like Peyton, or someone like who was I thinking? Corey. Like I could not make a connection with Corey for the life of me. I tried so hard and it just was so difficult. And I think it was just, the same with Allie. Like we got along so well on a personal level, but on a game level, we just didn't really click in that way. And I think that, because we were on opposite sides and we all knew it, it was just hard to make that bridge, but some other people were able to make that bridge. So I think that, that is a weakness that I definitely had.
No, for sure. So then really that's like my biggest point for you guys is just being able to self-assess yourselves both as well, because I know this has been a very intense game with a lot of different emotions and like a lot of different things have happened. So then pretty much like my only really other big point that I really want to hit on is what the hell was it? I don't even remember. Just like, if you had to go, what do you feel like your one biggest move this game was that you feel like you did, not that somebody else did that you took a part of, but that you solely yourself felt like it was your move from the back? And I already think I know what you're going to say, Zach. So I think I have an idea of what you're going to say, but I want to hear from both sides of it. Like, what do you feel like, Austin, was your one big thing that you did this season that like, I should give you my vote to win this game?
So, okay, yeah, so I've touched on this a little bit. I feel like there are a lot of moves that I kind of made, but I feel like other people were too connected to the move, so I don't want to use those. But the one thing I can wholeheartedly say was all me was Kennedy going home. I feel like Kennedy was largely untouchable, like almost the entire game. And I saw that as, maybe the singular opportunity to ever take her out. And I had made it clear that, when I put her up for 10th or 9th or whenever it was, that we obviously weren't on the same side, and I was willing to make that move. We somehow still both ended up being in the top 4 together, after I had just potentially convinced her to keep me around over you, Garrett. And then the very next round, I kind of was a villain and went back on that. And that's a little out of character for me, but it's something I definitely think I deserve credit for, because Kennedy was untouchable in this game. And I was the person who was willing to always kind of take those opportunities and, take those shots. So that is like, I think would be my big singular move.
For me, I don't know, Garrett, if you think that I'm going to talk about your HOH with Dylan, or if you think I'm going to talk about the double with Austin, I don't know. But I do think that my biggest singular move was using the veto at the double. I know I touched on this so many times already, but I won that veto. I used it. It really was my move because it wasn't something that any of my allies wanted. You didn't want it. Devin didn't want it. Kenny didn't want it. Josh didn't want it. None of the people I was working that closely with wanted it. And making a move that goes against so many of your allies at Final 8 is such a big, risky decision. But I did it because I knew that I needed to do it. It was something that was going to benefit me. So I didn't really care about the risk because I was here to play for myself and do what I needed to do to further myself in this game. So I won that veto and I used that veto and I did what I had to do. And it just put me in such a better position in this game.
Garrett, you got about 30 seconds.
All right, one last question. Was there a final 2 between both of you? That's all. I just shits and giggles. No, there really wasn't. Okay,
No.
That's all I really wanted to know. Okay. Well, I've learned a lot of good information from you both. Obviously, I'm wishing you both the best of luck, and I will catch you on the flip. So best of luck, and then I guess I will see you in a little bit.
Thank you, Garrett.
Bye, boyfriend Michael.
Okay, next up is Kennedy. Hello, Miss.
Hello.
Your 7 minutes starts when you start talking.
All right. Hi, boys. Okay. So I have the same question for both of you. It's kind of layered. There's a couple parts to it. So let's hope we can get through this fast. The first part, I want each of you to describe your early, mid, and late game in one sentence. Either of you can start.
I'll start. Early, mid, and late. So a sentence for each part, or?
Yes, a sentence for each part.
Okay. For the first part, extremely defensive and sociable. Middle part, behind the scenes and but just behind the scenes, really, just moves behind the scenes that no one else was really seeing that I was doing. And then end part, competition wins and big moves and big plays.
All right, Austin.
For me, I will say that the first part of the game for me was fairly quiet. I feel like I probably had a little bit of an invisible edit. The middle part of the game, I would say the best word to describe me would be ballsy. I was trying to do stuff that other people, weren't interested in. And then here at the end, I will say cutthroat. I definitely made some cutthroat decisions that I don't think people were expecting me to make. And I feel like they ended up benefiting my game.
All right. Which of you two, which of you two, what do you think your strongest part is? Your early, mid, or late game? Either of you.
I think I think my end game, I don't really know when the, differentiates between like what round endgame starts or whatever, but clearly I won most of my comps in the endgame. I took myself here in the endgame. I won Final 4 HOH, Final 4 POV, and then part 2 and part 3 of the HOH. No one else was taking me here. I don't think Austin was taking me, and I don't think Josh was taking me. I got myself here, and I don't think I'd be here right now because they wouldn't want me here. So I think that was my strongest play. I won my HOH in my 2 HOHs in the final part. That was really my strongest section of the game.
I am going to say my mid game, and my reasoning for choosing mid game is the middle of the game is where I really stepped back, assessed my position in the game, took control of my position in the game, and started to set the groundwork for how I was going to make it to the end. I knew that I obviously had been very upset about not winning challenges. I made this clear to almost everybody in the game. I figured, I'm not able to secure anything. I don't have anything I'm really adding to my resume right now. So let me start to plant seeds with people from both sides of the game to really make myself look almost like appetizing to make it to the end. And then while people were overlooking me, I was using my social standing to really change the direction in which the game was going. And I feel like I used the middle of the game to really set myself up for the end game. The only reason I'm not saying end game is just I wasn't able to secure some of those comp wins at the end, but I still ended up being here because of what I did in the mid game.
Right, and then what section, so mid, early, late game, whatever, what section do you prefer? Would you rather define your game? If people really could only see one section, what are you most proud of? What section really defines what you did? I know obviously they're all linked together, but like you have brains, you've figured out.
I don't know, like I guess I would say from final 9, 8, and 7. I think that was a key moment for me. I don't know if that's like kind of mid, but it's kind of late.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I'm talking about. That was really because final 9 I was on the block, but I used my social game to survive on the block and have people turn on their own allies to keep me in this game. Final 8 is the double. We've talked so much about the double here, but that was really, I think, my biggest moment. And the final 7, as well as anyone, Kennedy, with Devin and how we went together against him there and did what we had to do to get him out there. So those 3 rounds, wherever they fall, whether that be late game or middle game, whatever it may be, that's the chunk that I want people to see.
And I personally want people to see me for my end game. I feel like I did the unexpected. I feel like nobody in this cast really would have predicted me sitting here at the final 2. And I also feel like this end game section is where I've actually had the chance to outline everything that I did socially in this game, because social moves, I feel like, don't get the same credit that physical comp wins do. So I think I want people to remember me for the end game because I am using this platform to highlight those things that I did in this game. And I feel like maybe a lot of people weren't expecting some of the things that I've been behind or been a part of, but I definitely was. And I feel like all of that has come out here at the end. I also ended up in the final 2 when the odds seemed like they were very stacked against me. And I think I would rather people, see that part of me.
All right, Michael, what am I at for time?
1.5 minutes.
1.5 minutes. All right, so we'll just kind of wrap it up really quick. Make sure you both get the chance to answer this one. Who do you think you relied on most in this game?
I relied on you most in this game. You were my closest ally for so much of this game. I trusted you so much. I told you things that I could not and would not dare tell anyone else in this game. You knew my information. You knew what alliances I had. You knew what my plans were. I knew what yours were, and we just worked really, really well together. I relied on you so much, so heavily. You kept me safe with your comp wins. I kept you safe with mine. It was, we needed each other in this game.
Austin?
This question's a little bit hard for me because I'm kind of struggling seeing like who I relied on individually, because the start of the game and the mid part of the game was very much so me kind of being grouped up with people. So I relied on groups more so than individuals, but I strangely enough, I think we'll say I relied on Josh the most as an individual. We were never on the same side of the game, but we were on opposite sides looking out for each other. I learned information from Josh at times that may have been eye-opening. I feel like Josh put in the work to help me stay a couple of times. And I think me being here in the final two would not have happened if it wasn't for Josh in some of those scenarios. So I definitely feel like I probably laid my head on Josh a little bit more, especially at the end stages of the game. So yeah.
Do I get a final sentence or do I have to go?
You can say one final sentence.
Okay, my final sentence is going to be for the rest of, congrats to you both, but for the rest of this, you need to sell that the person you relied on in this game was yourself, no one else.
Thank you, Kennedy.
Bye.
You got actually, there we go. Okay. And last but certainly not least, Josh. Head on in. Hello, Josh.
Hey,
Your time will start when you start talking.
okay. I just want to say congrats to both of you. I didn't have a nice jury reception, just so you know, and I was right about that. Okay, my first question. I have a lot of questions, so I'm gonna go through them quick. Zach, I feel like you played a pretty strong game, but I feel like you ignored me, Final 5, Final 4, Final 3, and if I didn't message you, you probably wouldn't have messaged me. And you know, you were a great ally from beginning to end. But just like a movie, if the movie is good and it has a bad ending, you're gonna have a sour taste in your mouth. So my question to you also, if you want to address that, but I'll have a question. At Final 6, you won HOH and you wanted to put me up, and you almost did, but you didn't. And I believe that you probably should have. Was it a mistake to keep me off the block there?
Well, firstly, I want to apologize for ignoring you at all any of those last rounds. The thing is, I didn't want to be fake, and I didn't want to respond to you and say things that I knew myself were not true. I didn't want to tell you like, oh yeah, I trust you so much, when in reality, we both knew that wasn't the case. We both knew where we stood with each other at Final 5 and 4. I hated that it came out that way, and I think you did as well, because it shouldn't have, because in reality, we should have been like super close based on everything, but things just fell apart, and I'm sorry for my part in that, but I didn't want to reach out to you and be fake and go like, let's go Final 2, or you know, all that stuff, when in reality we both knew what was happening and what was really going on between both of us and everything. So I apologize for that, but I just didn't want to, you know, lead you on or say anything that I personally did not believe. As for Final 6, I did, you know, consider putting you up because you're a big player, you're a big threat, you know that you're a great player, and I told you all this at Final 6, like you were a huge threat. I didn't put you up because I felt like if you went home, I felt like I was probably the next biggest target, maybe me or Kennedy, and I felt like I was just going to get picked off the second that I lost the competition, and I wasn't prepared for that. I did not want to be picked off the second that I didn't win veto or something. I don't regret that, because at the end of the day, I'm still here. If I didn't make it here, 100% I would have said I regret that, of course, and I did think back at that moment afterwards, and I thought, you know, I should have done that, whatever. This, you know, so much would have changed had I done that and I had taken you out of Final 6. But I might have gotten 5th. I might have gotten 4th. Like, who the hell knows what would have happened? But I can't say I regret it, because at the end of the day, I still got here, and you know, I don't know what would have happened otherwise. I probably wouldn't be here if I did it.
Okay, that's very fair. Question for Austin. Week 1, did you save me or evict me in that vote?
I evicted you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of talked about it. I definitely developed a strong relationship with Dylan. I felt like we started to kind of start our relationship week 1. I haven't told you this, but you were actually the first person who I was considering targeting in this game, Josh, just because of your reputation for surviving 1984. And we started to kind of gravitate towards opposite sides of the game. You know, I was being associated with Dylan, and Dylan had just put you up. I actually was saving you when I told you that day, you know, the first eviction. I actually did send in a vote to evict Chloe, and I believe I changed my vote to evict you with like 5 minutes before, because there was some sort of campaign to get the vote to flip on you at the last second. I didn't actually want to throw my vote onto you, but I was trying to mainly strengthen those relationships with those people, and that's what they wanted that week. So yes, I did definitely evict you week 1, but I don't think I ever really came for you ever since then, so please forgive me.
Yeah. Okay, and a question to both of you. did any outside influences or forces or me as a game player in other games have an effect on your decision with me in this game?
I'll go. So initially, absolutely, because I feel like I heard that you were in like a 5-person alliance with Dylan that first round. On an individual level, you were one of the last people I ever got the opportunity to speak with. And based on those factors and the outside factor of you winning Surviving 1984, I was like, Josh is going to be a huge threat in this game. If he could be the first boot, that would be ideal. Had I won that first HOH, I probably would have put you up. But it is crazy how things change, isn't it? Because near the end and towards the middle of the game, you were definitely one of the people I felt most comfortable with. Even though we weren't filtering every single little bit of information to each other, I knew that if you came into power, I didn't have anything to worry about. And I believe you kind of felt the same way, that if I came into power, I had other people who I would be considering going after. So yes, initially those factors played a part, but I think those factors were irrelevant in the long run because, I mean, look at how close we ended up getting in this game.
Yeah.
I have to say, I mean, similarly, and in games like this, everyone knows each other from other places, other games, whatever. And so obviously I also heard about the alliance that you've had in week 1, which was, Dylan ended up turning on that alliance right away. But I heard about that, which of course made it so everyone kind of knew you were associated with Chloe and Jerry and Billy. So that's kind of where you kind of got pushed to a side from the start because of this outside game. Obviously, I heard that you were a former winner of Surviving 1984. Of course, everyone saw you as a threat as a result of that, which is unfortunate. But yeah, definitely, when you have these games and you know of these previous connections and that how people know these other people and everyone knows someone, there's like the whole web. 100% it contributes to that. But yeah, the alliance from week 1 and your reputation as just a great player. I mean, I've seen you play before, and I know you're a great player, and I know that you know what you're doing.
Okay.
You have 1 more minute, Josh.
Oh my God. Okay. I need you guys to close your eyes and answer a few questions. I'm going to run through the entire jury and you're going to raise your hand if you believe you'll get their jury vote. So quickly, raise your hand if you believe you will get Amanda's jury vote. Okay. Raise your hand if you believe you'll get Corey's jury vote. Raise your hand if you believe you'll get Devin's jury vote. Raise your hand if you believe you'll get Allie's jury vote. Raise your hand if you believe you'll get Garrett's jury vote. And raise your hand if you believe you'll get Kennedy's jury vote. And raise your hand if you believe you will get my jury vote. Okay, you guys can open your eyes. Congratulations to both of you. I am actually very proud of the both of you. Like, I hope we could be all friends after this game. I love the both of you, even though I came up short. It was a whole crazy experience, and I should have been voted out week 1. And just basically the entire game was like borrowed time. So at any point I would have been sad, but I'm actually really happy I got to play this season with everyone here and got to know them. So best of luck, and whoever wins, congrats, and whoever doesn't, it's okay at the end of the day. So
Thank
peace.
you, Josh. Okay, that is all we have for the jury questions. So this is your final chance to tell the jury why you think you should get their vote and represent this season of 1984. You will have 2 minutes to give your final plea. As mentioned earlier, Austin will go first, Zach will go second. Austin, your time will start when you start talking.
Yeah, so I think there has been kind of a little bit of a pattern, during the jury questioning. It's very obvious that Zach had more competition wins than me. And I feel like social games might not be all that visible, but I really hope that with my opening speech and the way I was able to answer the jury questions, I hope it definitely makes you all feel better about how I played the game. I hope the game that I played is more visible to everybody at this point. I put so many hours, so much effort into this game, so much heart. I mean, I was on the brink of tears when I lost the wall sit challenge. I was so disappointed. I really gave this game my all. Totally, I feel like an underdog. Nobody, I don't think, expected me to even be here at this point. Me being here is, I think, a huge testament to the game I played. I feel like I definitely would be a great representative as a winner of 1984. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed meeting everybody this game, and I really hope you're able to give me your jury votes tonight. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Austin. Zach, your time will start when you start talking.
Jurors, I came into this game and I did what I had to do. I was sneaky. I was quiet. I was under the radar. I was on the defensive from the start when I had to take myself off the block week 1. I was forced to make connections from the start as a result of it, and I never stopped talking to people. I never stopped making these connections and making these alliances. I would tell lies to certain people. I would tell one person one thing and another person another, and they never really crossed paths with each other because I knew how to manage those lies and I knew how to manage what I was doing. I didn't have an HOH all the way into the end, and yet still I made it to, I was able to take myself off the block with POVs. I was able to get out my targets even when I didn't have HOH or veto. I was able to get out people who I wanted to get out, with Peyton or Dylan. I used the veto when it benefited me. I made moves that benefited me, even if it didn't benefit my alliance 100% because I was playing for myself. I got myself here to the end when no one else wanted to take me here. Austin wasn't going to take me and Josh wasn't going to take me. I won both parts to get here. I won Final Four HOH. I won Final Four veto. I did what I had to do to get here and get myself here when no one else would have taken me here because they knew the reputation that I have, the resume that I've built for myself, and they know what I've done in this game. And I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't take myself because I only could take myself because I only really had my own back in this game.
Okay. Thank you both. I am now going to allow the jurors to come back on. I'm asking them to stay on mute, so if you two could also stay on mute. I don't know how many of them we're going to get. I don't think we'll get Corey or Devin, but we should be able to get the rest of them, maybe not Amanda. Any jurors are watching and you are not getting on here, this is your last chance to change your vote if you had a vote previously. Pre-jury is not coming on here. They will be invited to the reunion window. The honey bear. Give it another minute or two. I think we'll get Garrett, but I don't know if we're going to. Currently have 10 viewers. You guys might be some of them though. There's Garrett. Okay, Mr. Rizzo. Okay. I don't believe we're going to get anybody else. So, house guests, it is the last time that we are going to be voting this season. This, unfortunately, I'm not going to say by a majority of the votes because I don't think that is as fun of a vote reveal for a finale. So, house guests, it is time to vote. When I call your name, you can come off mute and give one brief statement about or to the final two. Please do not reveal who you are voting for. We will go in the order of eviction. Amanda is first. Let me grab her vote. Thank you, Amanda. Next is Corey. Let me grab her vote. Thank you, Corey. Next is Devin. Let me grab his vote. Okay, next is Allie. Allie, please go to your production chat and cast your vote. And you can give us one brief statement.
Well, my vote goes to the person who I think played the better game, but both of you guys played amazing, and I am proud of both of you. And I'm just so happy that all of us met and became friends, and hopefully we can all be friends after the game.
Thank you, Allie. Garrett, you are next.
Can I say my spiel first and then vote? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to get kicked out of the Zoom. But is that fine, Michael? Okay, bless. All right, so my vote tonight, because I had to weigh out a lot of different things about what, but my vote personally is just gonna go kind of the same way with Ali, who I feel like not only on paper played a better game, but kind of was able to keep themselves hidden and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna go vote.
She'll come out and take a seat. We'll take a moment to get the court prepared.
Thank you, Garrett. Kennedy, you are next.
Hello again. I'm gonna do my spiel and then type in my vote. I just want to say, because I look like a bitch. Sorry. Congrats to both of you. I'm really proud of both of you. Zach, you owe me Roblox. We gotta play Roblox. Austin, we never played League. You owe me some League. But I love you both, and I'm proud of both of you. And I'm so sorry if I didn't say that the first time. So I'm not gonna say anything about my vote. I'm gonna be mysterious. But good luck to both of you. You played hell of a game.
Thank you, Kennedy and Josh.
Congrats to the both of you. My vote is going to go to the person that it was very tough, that surprised me the most. And yeah, good job.
Thank you, Huskers. Give me just a moment. Okay, house guests, for the final time this season, I have the votes. You want to see your name? Here we go. Amanda has voted for Austin. Corey has voted for Austin. Devin has voted for Zach. Allie has voted for Zach. It's 2-2. Garrett has voted for Zach. The vote is 3-2. Kennedy has voted for Zach. Congratulations, Zach. You are the winner of 1984 Lights Out. For the record, Josh voted for Austin, which means, Zach, you won 4-3.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Okay, thank you, everyone who voted for me, everyone who didn't, regardless. I had such a great time playing with all of you. I'm so appreciative. Oh my God, I can't believe.
Okay, so with that, Zach, with the majority of the votes, you are the winner of 1984 Lights Out. Austin, congratulations. You played an amazing game. Josh, you as well. You played an amazing game. With that, I'm going to end the stream, and then I will give...
Hello.
I will give the new Zoom link to all of you.